Alright, everybody, you'll have to pardon the Nomsol skin, but this is Build Battle Sibling Edition. Alright, so little sis is going to build her cherry blossom house. We are only allowed to come up with blocks, so if you type in this, you get all of these, because cherry excludes nothing. Okay, so anything with cherry, and also pink. So all of the things here, because pink petals.
Yeah. But other than that, and you can't have anything else.
Awesome texture, by the way.
But you can't have anything else, or else you are disqualified.
So you can begin building. You have about 30 to 45 minutes. If you do it sooner, you have an hour, but if you do it sooner, it cuts down my time. So let the time lapse begin. I will be starting first. Alright, everybody, take 2 on the commentary because I forgot to hit the record button. I start off with a red frame. This is good to help your mind kind of settle in. As I went into this, I sort of had a design, but I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted, and it turned out a little different than what it actually happened to be, but it still worked out pretty well, I must say. Just like how this commentary should go. I start working on the front. From experience, I never really liked making a big front, or a small front, that went into a big thing. But that's only an interior thing. If you're making a house to live in, you don't want to do that in Minecraft. But if you're just doing it outside of a house, which I'm doing right now, but we might make the inside later on, I do this kind of modern stair sort of feeling, which I had going into it, although I executed it a little bit more differently than I did this time. I mess around with this front area a bit, see what I want to do, build this little front thing, which was my original idea, but it didn't execute as I wanted it to. I wanted the house to be a little bit more thinner, almost like, I don't know, almost like a church, like an old church. We continue on. I start scattering around a little, almost circle of flowers to give it this ambient kind of feel. Later on, I'll end up adding more flowers to make it more of a curve and entrance. I do this little box thing, but I had a feeling that wouldn't work out to begin with. So I break it, and then I begin the big move, which is just building the walls. This comes naturally to me, but it eventually will to easy starting builders. You just build the walls, get a little bit of a structure, and then it helps your mind really focus on what you're doing and kind of build from there. So I build the walls, I build the posts, which again is important. That is one of the first building techniques that you learn, which is changing the wood and the posts, just like villager houses do. So I make the walls, commit to 3, make that one 4, and then change it later. I break this, which is a good decision, and now I have this clear-cut kind of thing. I try to do the thing again, doesn't really work, so I do the classic column upside down staircase. I like that, and then proceed to put it on the rest so that I can see it. This now concludes the second part of the build. We have destroyed the structure and are now placing down the foundation for the second floor, and starting the actual build frame of the next. Do some aesthetics here, just place down some leaves. This is always a good thing for a build. It just makes it look a little bit more lively and normal, because we all have bushes that need to be cut in real life. I then make this big brain move, which I was worried about because I have never played around with these cherry trees. I'm panicking at the generation here because it is going into the house, and I didn't feel like breaking it, but I just ignored it for later. I get out some glass off of pure instinct, start splattering it around the trees. Little sister is saying to me, "What are you doing?" And I have no idea myself. I just kind of did this and started fixing it. I don't want anything to be individual, but I also don't want them all to be linking together. So I do this. Somewhere along the line, the leaves start despawning, which is weird. I then take this and put these terracottas on, these pink glazed terracotta, because they look like almost baked cherry blossoms, and it works pretty well. You can probably start seeing that stuff starts disappearing now. We're gonna see a sapling on the floor. I scatter this around, look at it, see two just despawned, there's a sapling on the ground. I realize this, I get out some wood, and the log should help with that. Maybe there's some sort of generation wrong with that. I then decide with this staircase, which is this cool Japanese almost design, like Japanese blinders. I had this going into it, but I executed it, again, slightly differently, and it worked out well. It looks pretty good. So I then use that as my wall texture. I start filling in the floor, break the leaves. I build out the blinders. It seems a bit empty, so I will go back and add glass. I get this idea for a balcony here, like a botanist kind of garden. I build the walls, again, just to get an idea of how the house is going. I notice the blank kind of expression here, so I add in the glass windows. And now I'm looking at this Japanese kind of style. I get out the cherry doors. I'm not really sure what to do here with the 3 blocks, so I leave it open just so we have like an almost open house. I later fill it in at the end. And now I start off with the botanist house. This is where the only pink and cherry thing kind of started bugging me. But I think I did it pretty well. We have these nice cherry trees falling onto us. I get the desk. I start off with the classic desk of just 2 stairs, which is another technique that you learn early on. But then I decide, after messing around with the chair, which is impossible in Bedrock to do, I then change it to a trapdoor table, and it looks a lot better. Makes it longer, makes it thinner. It's not always perfect, but it looks pretty good. I get out a flower pot, place it down, and then I decide to use the flower pot to make almost this like rooftop garden sort of thing. This would be all good, except for I decide to put it on a trapdoor desk, which makes the theme a little bit different. One little aspect can change your entire build. I do this repetition pattern, and then I put this flowers in an item frame and make. They're pressed flowers. Pressed flowers indeed, which looks very cool with the 2D texture. I then break the repetitive flower on the desk plate, get a pressure plate, and make the classic computer, which is available in Bedrock and Java. I look for a Japanese-like photo, find nothing, I just go with this one after 3 times. I'm happy with it. Then I decide to make these rails, fences. So I'm figuring out how to use these hanging signs because I have not learned how to use them yet. I believe there's a way to have the wooden thing work out better, but I didn't do it. So I do these chains. I love that editing of the signs, and we're just gonna do some ASMR here as we continue on. I then proceed to make the second wall. This is an abnormal wall as it is 1 block longer than the rest, and this is what gets me in this weird thing. I tried doing this cool wallpaper thing with the stripped wood, the stripped logs, and I must say it does look pretty good. It almost has a candy feel, but I then end up changing it later on. I make the wood almost be a modern, like, linking, almost like arrows linking into each other to go into the direction, and then I proceed to worry about the roof. I start off by getting the basic frame of this roof, just going one into the wall and then doing the stairs one out of the wall, which is another good build design. Right here I start off really going into the Japanese design with these very nice trapdoors after the stairs. I loop it around. It's almost like a straw hat-like roof. Place it on. Make it more outward. And then right here is my happy accident, as Bob Ross would say, with the trapdoor going underneath, which really I love the aesthetic of, to make it more 3D almost, and it gives a good depth and design to it. Again, very Japanese-like. I keep saying Japanese even though never been, rarely seen, but it is an almost ancient China or Japanese style, and I did study it in history, so. I then place down this, which is a very key element, as it shows the shadow underneath. If we were to put pink, it would have popped and it would have looked weird, which I was worried about, but since it blends in with the build and it's dark, it makes it perfect. I then go with this flat roof kind of design. You always gotta choose. Rarely do people ever do a good house that has a full rooftop point. They always end up doing flats, be it 2 blocks, 3 blocks, or if you want it to be really pointy, 4 blocks. Otherwise it starts looking weird, even at 4 blocks. Right here I do the modern little balcony top sort of thing. I just wanted to make it a little bit more modern. If you wanted to do a little bit more of an old art style, you'd do a chimney, maybe put a campfire to get some smoke there. Here I changed the design, play with it a bit. And we are now at the home stretch of our build, really, just touching up on some things, making sure that I feel good about it. I do the 2-1 sort of tactic here, where if you place 2 blocks and then start doing your pattern, or technically 1 block plus frame, it gives you a good excuse. Here we have the sheep. I get distracted. free the sheep, like a protester. And I continue on with my build. Little sis is laughing. I do these glass panes. No, don't free the sheep. I get some honeycomb to prepare to make my move. She types in no. I then do free the sheep, wax it to be permanent, and leave. Very excited. So these glass panes see out the tree. We have this little garden here. If you didn't want to have all these trees on the outside and all these flowers, you could just fence it off and make this little corner thing. I then buzz through these flowers with such speed, and then I go with the final touches. I put this forest in the background, give some aesthetic, even though we're in a flat world. I'm a little bit worried about these random generated trees right here, because again, never played around with it. I just spam it around and then do the trees until everything fits. It kind of gives you this background, and we are complete. Alright everybody, this is my house. We will have little sis's house. So we'll see you guys when the time lapse is done.